This page is the cover of Nintendo Power Magazine, featuring Link from The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. The magazine proudly declares itself the biggest issue ever. The next page is an advert for Nintendo Power Magazine, showcasing The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It features Link battling enemies, with the tagline, "Play around with this and you might take out an eye." The ad promotes a subscription for $19.95 a year, including bonus content, a discount on Zelda merchandise, and access to the Super Power Supplies catalog. It mentions signature moves, like the swing cut and beam attack, and encourages readers to subscribe to discover more. This page advertises both The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64 and Pokémon for the Game Boy. For Zelda, it urges players not to miss the limited edition gold cartridge, available starting October 24, 1998, and instructs them to reserve a copy. For Pokémon, it promotes the games as a means to become a Pokémon Master Trainer, capturing all 150 Pokémon, requiring training, battling, and exploration, and highlights the red and blue versions, encouraging players to use a Game Boy link cable to trade with friends. The next page features the game Buck Bumble for the Nintendo 64. It showcases the game's website, www.buckbumble.com, and promotes it with the tagline, "Be prepared," alongside screenshots of gameplay within a world filled with other bugs. It mentions there are some nasty bugs going around, and features logos for Ubisoft Entertainment, Nintendo 64, and Argonaut Software Limited. This page is a cover for the Nintendo Power Magazine, Volume 114, November 1998 issue, highlighting The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time as the main strategy guide, starting on page 16. Also included are strategy sections for Buck Bumble, CARS, Banjo-Kazooie, Body Harvest, Glover, NHL 99, Fighting Force, Wipeout 64, and Extreme Egg 2. Special features include previews for Rogue Squadron and Superman, and a special on Game Boy Color. The table of contents also lists regular sections like Player's Pulse, Classified Information, Counselor's Corner, Arena, Player's Poll Contest, Now Playing, Pack Watch, Next Issue, and Game List. The bottom promotes Pokémon Power. The page features screenshots from various games, including Zelda, Body Harvest, Glover, and games running on the Game Boy Color. The next page, titled Player's Pulse, features reader letters and responses. Topics include whether to retire Super NES power charts due to the upcoming release of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, concerns about faded Game Boy printer pictures, and discussions about full-motion video in 64 games. There's also a query about what Kazooie says in Banjo-Kazooie, as well as a request to settle a family argument regarding dialogue in Major League Baseball, featuring Ken Griffey Jr. The page includes fan art and a Tech Tips with Dr. Nittenstein section, which offers advice on cleaning sticky controller buttons using a toothbrush. Games mentioned include Diddy Kong Racing, and there's a brief discussion on racing games in general. Readers give their opinions on various racing and sports games. This page showcases power charts for Nintendo 64, Super NES, and Game Boy, ranking the top games for each system. For the N64, GoldenEye 007 holds the top spot, with Banjo-Kazooie and WWF Warzone following behind. On the Super NES chart, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past leads, succeeded by Super Mario RPG and Donkey Kong Country 3. The Game Boy chart is topped by The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, with James Bond 007 and Donkey Kong Land 3 rounding out the top three. A Most Wanted section lists upcoming games, highlighting The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. There are also reader letters, including one hoping for a Spice Girls game, and another discussing the controller pack's utility. The page ends with phone directory for Nintendo Power subscriptions and a Nintendo Power Source URL. The next page is a full-page advert for the Nintendo 64 game Body Harvest. It features review quotes praising the game's originality and innovation. The ad describes the game's premise. Giant alien insects are eating humans, and mankind is on the brink of extinction in 2016. The only hope lies in using a time machine to go back and change history. The ad highlights the game's features, including 5 levels spanning 100 years, 50 different alien predators, and 60 vehicles to drive, also showing in-game screenshots. The game stars with a yellow Volkswagen Beetle, labeled as Seats 4, in the image. This page delves into The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64. It gives an overview of Hyrule Field as the central point of the game, connecting to areas like Kokiri Forest, Hyrule Castle, Kakariko Village, and Lake Hycelia. The page then focuses on Kokiri Forest, detailing Link's starting point, his connection with Saria and Navi, and the initial objectives. Talking to Saria, collecting the Piece of Heart, purchasing the Deku Shield, and finding the Kokiri Sword. There are also tips from Navi, instructions on training moves, object manipulation, and the impact of day and night cycles on the game's world. Visuals include a map of Hyrule, in-game screenshots, and gameplay instructions. This page continues the exploration of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, with a walkthrough of the Deku Tree dungeon, including Link's objectives, such as getting the map, slingshot, and compass. It gives advice on sneaking into the castle, detailing how to avoid guards in Hyrule Castle Market, and the best route to take. The page also mentions Queen Gohma, with tactics for her defeat, and objectives for exploring the Lost Woods. It also mentions meeting Malon in the market, getting the egg from her, waking Talon with the hatched egg, and getting the letter from Princess Zelda to learn Zelda's lullaby from Impa. Screenshots from the game are included. The next page provides a walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, covering Kakariko Village, Dodongo's Cavern, and Goron City. It outlines Link's objectives in each area, such as corralling chickens, finding the Hylian Shield, learning Sun's Song, exterminating spiders, and presenting Zelda's letter in Kakariko Village. For Dodongo's Cavern, it details how to enter, light torches, and defeat King Dodongo using bombs. The Goron City section includes following Death Mountain Trail, playing Zelda's lullaby to enter Darunia's chamber, and Satoria's song to earn the Goron's bracelet. The page includes maps of Dodongo's Cavern and screenshots illustrating key moments. This page continues the walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It covers back to the Lost Woods, Lon Lon Ranch, Zora's Domain, Zora's River, and Lake Hylia. The page details objectives like winning a Deku Nuts bullet bag, mimicking songs for a Piece of Heart, and finding Saria. It also mentions reuniting with Malon and Talon in Lon Lon Ranch. In Zora's Domain, the guide covers catching a fish, lighting torches, and earning the Silver Scale. Zora's River involves leaping across banks and finding underwater shortcuts. Finally, in Lake Hylia, the guide explains picking up a bottle, fishing, and diving to re-enter Zora's Domain, including advice on fishing. This page details the walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, focusing on inside Jabu Jabu's belly and the events leading to the Temple of Time. For Jabu Jabu's belly, the page outlines Link's objectives, from entering the dungeon by offering a fish to defeating the bioelectric anemone Baronade. The walkthrough includes map locations and strategies for using Ruto and the boomerang. There are images depicting key moments, like riding the elevator and battling Bigocto and Baronade. The page also guides players to the Temple of Time, listing objectives such as exterminating spiders, going to Hyrule Castle, diving for the Ocarina of Time, and drawing the Master Sword. Screenshots show Link with the spiritual stones and Zelda throwing the ocarina into the moat. There is also the scene after Link awakens from a 7-year slumber. This page is an advertisement for Nightmare Creatures on the Nintendo 64. The game's tagline is, "The Nightmare Continues," and promises a chilling experience with 16 levels of action, a new game engine, blood-pumping Nintendo 64 graphics, and Rumble Pack support. Screenshots show gameplay featuring battles against monsters in medieval London. Plus, you can explore locations as Ignatius or Nadia, solve puzzles, and sever limbs. The game is published by Activision. The next page provides a look at Star Wars: Rogue Squadron for the Nintendo 64, promising an interstellar adventure. It discusses the game's premise, following Luke Skywalker and Rogue Squadron during the Rebel Alliance's struggle against the Galactic Empire. It highlights the variety of missions, fighter types, and the inclusion of familiar characters like Wedge Antilles, Zev Sineska, Dak Ralter, and Wes Jansen. It touches on the game's features, such as the different rebel fighters like the X-Wing and A-Wing, gameplay perspectives, and the depth of the game. It also promises impressive sound and graphics. This page dives into Star Wars Rogue Squadron for the Nintendo 64, detailing the defection at Corellia mission, where players protect a city from Imperial forces. The article outlines various objectives, like taking down droids and bombers, and participating in a ground attack with support from Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon. The page also touches on the game's planetary exploration, mentioning diverse locations from Tatooine to Corellia. It highlights the Imperial forces players will encounter, like aerial fighters, walkers, and stormtroopers. The article also mentions the V-Wing fighter. The page emphasizes the importance of communication during missions, and that the game is more than just a shooter. This page features a spotlight on Rogue Squadron for the N64, detailing the graphics and sound design. It mentions the game's use of the N64 expansion pack for enhanced visuals, and talks about the sound team's efforts to create immersive audio, including interactive music that adapts to the gameplay. The page also introduces Glover, a new hero on the N64, highlighting his ball control skills and puzzle-solving abilities across 7 worlds. This page focuses on Buck Bumble for the Nintendo 64, describing the game's weapons, strategies, and tips for gameplay. It highlights the variety of weapons available, encouraging players to use them wisely. The page gives advice on surface defenses, smart bombing techniques, and the dangers of water hazards. It encourages players to find hidden bonuses and shares tips on dogfighting. This page provides tips and strategies for various missions in Buck Bumble on the Nintendo 64. Mission guidance is provided for Saucer Full of Secrets, Under the Bridge, Under the Gun, and Key to Success. There is also information on Nuclear Nightmare, Laser Loophole, Carrier Strike, and Cut Off at the Source. The page continues with guidance for End of the Line, The Victory Arch, Enter the Swarm, Rotten to the Core, Scorpion's Revenge, and A Royal Pain. There is also a section devoted to the 2-player challenges, Surface Defenses, and Supersized Soccer. The next page is an advert for Rush 2 Extreme Racing USA for the Nintendo 64. It shows a yellow taxi smashing out of the side of a skyscraper above a sprawling cityscape. The tagline is, "The secretary will call you an ambulance as soon as she dislodges her head from your radiator." The ad highlights the game's features including treacherous shortcuts, air-launching jumps, skyscraping tracks, and shredding asphalt in cities like New York, Hollywood, Honolulu, and Las Vegas. This page features a collection of cheat codes and tips for various games. NFL Blitz on the Nintendo 64 gets a section with codes for special characters like Raiden, Shinnok, Big Brain, Skull, and Thug, along with numerical codes for different effects during gameplay. Banjo-Kazooie has a tip for unlimited gold feathers. Mission Impossible gets a code for Humongous Head Mode. F1 World Grand Prix features more world-class codes. There are also instructions for unlocking credits, and a gallery in F1 World Grand Prix, and a secret challenge called Ultimate E. Finally, tips are given for unlocking silver and gold drivers in F1 World Grand Prix. The next page has cheat codes and tips for several 64 games. Forsaken 64 has codes for invincibility and unlocking all missions. Major League Baseball featuring Ken Griffey Jr. includes a sneaky way to see which pitches the CPU will throw. WWF Warzone offers tips on how to unlock hidden characters and modes. Mike Piazza's Strike Zone features codes for heavy hitters, like how to get aluminum bats, change the sky, unlock more pitches, and get Psycho Bats. Aero Gauge has a code for unlocking all the aero machines and tracks. The page has screenshots of the games mentioned, as well as the Nintendo Power address for sending in tips. This page is an advert for the game Superman, the new Superman Adventures for the Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and Game Boy. It features screenshots of the game, a young boy holding a newspaper with the headline, "Superman is here," and highlights in-game features such as super strength, X-ray vision, and up to 4-player simultaneous play. A comic book is included with the purchase. The next page is an advertisement for Twisted Edge Extreme Snowboarding by Kemco for the Nintendo 64. It highlights the game's radical stunts and extreme borders. Screenshots showcase snowboarding tricks and stunts on the slopes. The game promises things that man wasn't meant to do. This page covers Mad Monster Mansion in Banjo-Kazooie for the Nintendo 64. The page details objectives within the level, such as finding Jinjos, completing tasks like Chimney Sweep, and solving puzzles in areas like the cellar. Screenshots offer visual guidance for navigating the mansion and completing challenges. The game involves acrobatics and detective work to find hidden items, promising a glimpse into the supernatural. The next page continues with Banjo-Kazooie, focusing on the hedges and steeples area, detailing challenges like Spooky Sermon and tasks within the hedge maze and haunted church. It explains how to get through the maze, solve musical puzzles, and navigate the church's interior. The Rusty Bucket Bay section introduces a new area and objectives, with tips on how to flip switches and navigate treacherous waters. It also covers challenges on the ship, such as Whistle While You Work and Up in Smoke. This page details several challenges and secrets within the Rusty Bucket Bay level of Banjo-Kazooie. It gives tips for navigating the level, including how to deal with the polluted water and dangerous enemies like Snacker the Shark. Information is given for various objectives, such as smashing portholes for a Jiggy, defeating the boss Boombox, rescuing Jinjos, navigating toxic dumps, and finding secret honeycomb pieces. The page finishes by teasing the upcoming levels and challenges that await Banjo and Kazooie as they progress through the game. The next page features the game Body Harvest for the Nintendo 64. It begins by describing the game as a vast, surprising adventure full of action, role-playing, driving, and shooting, focusing on the need to save humanity from aliens. The game is set in 6 different time periods. The page provides a preview of the Greece 1916 level, shows the map, and details some of the vehicles available, including the Riley 150, Cruiser, Fire Engine, Saloon, Swap North Camel, Howitzer, SR Shadow, Panzer Kampfwagen, Ambulance, Mk1 Crocodile, Lifeboat, Nico Supplies, Swap North Trainer, Adler, Dr. 1, Grimly Transport, and Bulldog. It also showcases some of the enemies, like the Exploders and Bug Zappers, found in the game. This page continues the Body Harvest walkthrough, focusing on the Grease levels. It covers the first mission, where the objective is to find a tank and destroy the alien processor, warning that the harvesters won't wait. The objectives include finding a switch to the drawbridge, locating dynamite, putting out fires, finding the hangar key, getting the tank, and fighting the processor. The second mission involves reigniting the torch of the Colossus. The objectives include getting the sun shield, using it to light the torch, finding the howitzer, blasting through the mountain, disabling the windmill, retrieving the cog from the windmill, passing through the water gate, and fighting the processor. Finally, the third mission involves Legends, a sunken temple, and a biplane mission to stop the harvesters. The objectives include finding the boat, getting the gear crank in the tunnel, raising the temple out of the water, finding a missing ruin piece, returning to the tunnel with the ruin piece, heading north to the airfield, flying to the southern airfield, taking the plane south to the processor, and destroying the shield generator. The page offers advice not to swim for long distances. This page features a walkthrough for the game Body Harvest, specifically the Java levels. Java Part 1 includes objectives like finding an airboat, rifle and ammo, crossing water on a cable car, finding a repair piece for a boat, locating an alien artifact, investigating a power surge, and fighting the final processor. It also provides tips on finding engine parts, getting the rifle and ammo, locating the power surge, and defeating the processor. There's a Bug Watch section highlighting enemy types like the Laser Blaster and Tall Mantis. Java Part 2 focuses on sneaking into a military base, getting a tank, finding the Java Chris knife blade, going to the radio station, investigating a generator, finding a way through a tunnel, and fighting the final processor. The page includes advice on sneaking into the military base, finding the Java Chris knife blade, reaching the radio station, and entering the tunnel. The page also lists various vehicles available in the game, such as the P-38 Griffon, Tiger Tank, Grimly Transport, AK-AK, Lifeboat, Jagdpanther, Bulldog, Swordfish MTB, B-25 Eagle, Kugelwagen, Small Tank, Trekker ATJ, Airboat Zero, and Gyrocopter. The next page continues the Java walkthrough for Body Harvest. Java 3 details rescuing villagers, finding the idol of Ruarua, taking the Javanese queen, and battling the final processor. Java 4 covers repairing the boat, clearing blockages, taking a water plane, flying to various elemental temples, and destroying the shield generator. There are tips on fixing the ship, clearing passages, and going to the elemental temples. Also highlighted are more bug battles coming up in other locations and years. The page also has ad content for the game Fox Sports College Hoops 99. This page previews Glover for the Nintendo 64, highlighting the main game, practice, and time trial modes. The main game involves reclaiming magic crystals, while collecting Garibs is a key element. Practice mode offers an area to hone Glover's skills, and time trial challenges players to beat target times. The page also details two levels, Atlantis and Selwyn. Atlantis involves collecting Garibs across different levels, with tips on navigating water pools and finding secret areas. Selwyn features a combo monster and requires strategic attacks. Hercules is mentioned as the first magic spell in the game. There are tips for defeating enemies and locating secrets in both Atlantis and Selwyn. The next page is a guide for the Nintendo 64 game Glover, with tips and tricks for various levels including Carnival, Closet, Pirates, Froggy, and Hercules. The Carnival section includes tips for the skee-ball game and the Whack-A-Dibber game. The Pirates level includes information about the enemies and a lighthouse, the helicopter potion, Spank, Dennis, and tips for traversing tilting platforms. Strategies for defeating bosses like Closets by hitting ball switches, and advice for collecting Garibs and finding secrets throughout the levels are provided. The page mentions enemies Swish and Chester. This page is a continuation of the Glover guide for the Nintendo 64. It details strategies and tips for the levels Prehistoric, Keith, and Fortress of Fear, as well as boss battles like Graham. The Prehistoric section gives tips for navigating icy areas and using snowballs, while the Keith section advises on dodging fireballs and using the bowling ball to defeat the Trex boss. Fortress of Fear provides guidance for solving electrical puzzles, dealing with ghosts, and using various potions like the helicopter potion. There is also advice on dealing with live dynamite and navigating electrified roofs. This page provides tips for the out-of-this-world levels in Glover, broken into 3 sections: 50 Garibs, 50 Garibs, and 80 Garibs. The tips include navigating jet streams, using switches, exploring levels, finding hidden areas, and avoiding enemies like aliens and robots. The page also gives strategies for defeating the bosses Ratchet and Spanners, including using balls to knock Spanners down and targeting Ratchet's weak spot. Finally, a small section beyond the basics encourages players to improve their score by collecting Garibs. The page also includes screenshots from the game and tips about the upcoming game NHL Breakaway 99. This page is an overview of the game SCARS, Supercomputer Animal Racing Simulation, for the Nintendo 64. It highlights the game's fast-paced, arcade-style racing and its vehicles, which are inspired by different wild creatures and armed with weapons. The game modes are Grand Prix, Challenge, and Time Attack, offering varied gameplay experiences. The arsenal features items like Turbo, Magnet, Boomerang, Shield, Time Bomb, Seeker, Rocket, and Stopper. The vehicles are Lion, Elephant, Dolphin, Panther, Rhino, Scorpion, Lizard, and Eagle. The reviewer notes, the tracks vary from ruined cities to volcanic islands and underwater paradises. This page from Nintendo Power focuses on providing tips and tricks for the game SCAR on the Nintendo 64. It details strategies for different tracks such as Aztec, Island, Ski, Rally, Canyon, and Mountain, giving players advice on navigating the courses, using weapons effectively, and finding shortcuts to improve their racing times. The next page features tips and strategies for the game Milo's Astro Lanes on the Nintendo 64. It highlights the unique gameplay where players bowl in warped lanes using power-ups and sabotage tactics. The page also includes promotional quotes emphasizing the game's fun and excitement. There's also a cover image and a game box shot. This page is an advertisement for NHL 99 on Nintendo 64. It highlights the game's features, including a variety of modes like Beginner, Exhibition, New Season, New Playoffs, New Tournament, and Shootout. The page also details gameplay elements such as realistic arenas, teams, strategies, coaching calls, and complete simulation moves. It emphasizes the game's graphics, ease of play, and options, aiming to appeal to both hockey and sports fans. The next page showcases advanced tactics for NHL 99 on Nintendo 64. It covers offensive and defensive strategies like combination, triangle, shooting, and umbrella for offensive plays, and combination, box +1, diamond, and large box for defensive plays. It also provides tips on advanced moves like the the spin around, checking, backward skating, one-time passing, stick control, and goalie control. Additional features include editing lines, free agents, creating a player, and trading players. The next page introduces the Game Boy Color, emphasizing its color screen, improved hardware, and wireless data transfer. It highlights the console's ability to display 56 colors at a time from a palette of over 32,000, and mentions upcoming color games from Nintendo, Rare, Konami, Midway, Acclaim, Titus, Crave, Kemco, Sunsoft, Natsume, Take-Two, Infogrames, Majesco, and Electrobrain. The page also features screenshots from Quest for Camelot, Tetris DX, Bomberman Pocket, and The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, showcasing the new color capabilities. A table compares the Game Boy Color specifications to the original Game Boy, noting improvements in screen colors, CPU speed, memory, and data transfer rates. This page showcases the Game Boy Color's ability to play classic Game Boy games in color, providing a chart of default color palettes and corresponding button combinations. It also features screenshots from various games like Pokémon, James Bond 007, Final Fantasy Adventure, Turok, Tetris Attack, and Bust-A-Move 2, demonstrating how these games look with different color palettes. The page then transitions to highlighting new color games for the system, including A Bug's Life, Shadowgate Classics, Carrot Crazy, Las Vegas Cool Hand, Montezuma's Return, Titus Jr., Mortal Kombat 4, Gex 3D, Pitfall 3D, and Top Gear Pocket. The article, Let the Games Begin, introduces some of the early color titles available for the Game Boy Color, accompanied by a section called Game Boy Color Titles that lists more games such as Blitz, Bomberman Pocket, and The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Finally, an article titled The Right Boy praises the Game Boy Color for its value and extensive game library, showing off the console itself. This page is an advertisement for NFL Quarterback Club 99 for the Nintendo 64. It features Brett Favre, a 3-time NFL MVP, and highlights several features of the game. These include second-generation technology with improved graphics, all-new NFL artificial intelligence, authentic NFL action with 30 team-specific playbooks, over 400 all-new motion-captured animations, a 2-man broadcast booth, an all-new passing system, total team management, and the ability to turn back the clock and replay key moments from all 32 Super Bowls. The ad boasts that the game is the #1 football game on 64. The next page covers the upcoming Superman game for the Nintendo 64 by Titus. The article focuses on translating Superman's comic book persona into a video game, highlighting the importance of utilizing his array of superpowers effectively. The author mentions that the game will feature classic powers like flight, heat vision, and super cold breath, and solving problems with these powers is a key feature. The article further discusses Superman's vision powers, including X-ray vision, and addresses the challenges of controlling super speed. The game's plot and character designs are based on Superman, the animated series. Screenshots show Superman in action, lifting a van and showcasing in-game graphics. This page discusses the upcoming Superman game for the Nintendo 64, focusing on the heroes and villains Superman will encounter. Classic villains like Brainiac, Metallo, Parasite, and robotic Shadow Walkers are featured, alongside supporting characters like Lois Lane. The article highlights the game's scope, including locations from Metropolis to Brainiac's spaceship. There are screenshots of the game's environments, showing large, textured indoor areas and outdoor stages. The author also touches on the game's comic book connection, mentioning that it will be packaged with an exclusive comic book serving as a prequel. The next page is a full-page advertisement for Extreme Egg 2 for Nintendo 64 and PC CD-ROM. The advert emphasizes the game's speed and intensity, with the tagline, "Live fast, die faster." It highlights features like over 36 new tracks, an expanded arsenal of weapons, and 12 new bikes for a surreal racing experience with 24-player multiplayer mode. There are screenshots of in-game racing action. This page presents a Nintendo sale at Sears, framing it with two strategies. Strategy A humorously depicts a child's request to go to Sears for the sale, while Strategy B shows a crying baby, implying the lengths kids will go to for Nintendo products. The advertised items include the Nintendo 64, the limited edition Golden Zelda cartridge, a collector's edition Zelda watch, the new Pokémon Pikachu, and the Game Boy Color. The sale, called Funtronics, runs from November 8th to 14th. The next page showcases Fighting Force 64, a 3D brawler for the Nintendo 64. The game features 4 unique characters battling against Drive, Zhang and his minions across 25 stages. The page details the characters' backgrounds, special moves, and a few gameplay tips for solo and tag team modes, as well as tips for finding weaponry on the streets. The characters include Alana, Hawk, Mace, and Smasher. This page details several levels in Fighting Force 64, offering tips and strategies for each. Levels include Drive, Zhang's office tower, High Street Lowdown, the Naval Base, the Air Base, the Park, the Mall, the Bronx, Barrels of Fun, Jetpack Jetlag, the Island Lab, Subway Station and Train, and Shelling Exo. The page provides hints on defeating bosses and finding weapons in each area, such as using slide kicks on the High Street boss, and destroying crates for energy in the Naval Base. The guide also suggests using certain characters, like Hawk and Smasher in the park, for their ability to lift and throw rocks. The next page showcases the Nintendo 64 game Space Station Silicon Valley. The image is a Chowtic Fun advert. There are various mutated animal characters, landscapes, and action-packed scenarios, highlighting the game's quirky and outlandish premise. The text emphasizes the game's setting in the year 3000, where there are no petting zoos, and encourages players to think like the whacked-out beings to save the planet. This page covers the Nintendo 64 game Wipeout 64. It begins with an energetic introduction, urging players to buckle up for a high-tech racing experience. The page details anti-gravity leagues, highlighting 4 sponsored ships each with unique attributes: Fisar, Ag Systems, Oricom, and Durex. The overview includes a description of the game's warp speed, touching on the tracks, ships, graphics, and techno soundtrack. The article then lists the game modes, challenges, and weapons. Modes include anti-grav racing skills across different game types. The challenges involve completing missions in ferocious arenas, focusing on race, time trial, and weapon-based gameplay. The weapon descriptions cover autopilot, electro bolts, flash bombs, mines, missiles, quake, 3-shot, and speed boost, each with unique effects and tactics. The next page offers racing tips and track overviews for Wipeout 64. It starts with general racing strategies, such as throttle control at the start, early use of air brakes, maintaining thrust, and pit lane usage. The page also advises listening to onboard computer warnings, avoiding rear-ending opponents, and strategic use of power-up pads. Track layouts are shown for Clyde's Bridge, Quaron IV, Dirones, Machone 2, Terrafumos, and Socana. Each track has a brief description highlighting key features and strategies. The page also features the Piranha 2 ship and teases the secret track, Velocitar, unlocked in challenge mode, promising extreme speed and a wild ride. This page features a dual advertisement. On the left, there is a promotion for officially licensed Nintendo collectibles merchandise based on The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, including 6 action figures of Link and Ganon, a 3 collectible box set with Link, Ganon, and Princess Zelda, a Link bendable keychain, Zelda t-shirts, sweatshirts, and baseball caps. The right side advertises Virtual Pool 64, touting its ultra-realistic gameplay with quotes from Game Week and IGN 64. It highlights the game's precision, physics, and variety of pool types, difficulty levels, and multiplayer support. Screenshots showcase in-game action, emphasizing realistic physics and trick shots. The next page provides gameplay tips for several Nintendo 64 games. For Forsaken 64, it gives advice on completing the sewer level and freeing the drone from behind the block. Mission Impossible section details how to find the security code on the rooftop and how to slip past Max's guards in the terminal room. Screenshots accompany each tip, illustrating key moments and strategies in the games. This page offers walkthroughs and tips for 2 different games. For Quest 64, it explains how to activate the Glencoe Forest Warp, how to escape from battles, and where to find the Blue Cave. The walkthrough includes screenshots and instructions for navigating the game world and interacting with characters. For Castlevania Legends, it provides strategies on how to defeat the first knight on the top floor and how to find the hidden stage, with screenshots illustrating key moments and areas in the game. There are also Q and a Fast Facts at the bottom, with information on Rampage, World Tour, WWF, Warzone, and Mystical Ninja starring Go and Minmon. The next page is titled Arena and presents a set of challenges for gamers related to specific accomplishments in different games like catching all Pokemon in the red and blue versions, completing specific tasks in Banjo-Kazooie, and achieving high scores in WCW/NWO Revenge. The page includes screenshots from these games and provides instructions on how to submit proof of these achievements to potentially earn power stamps and a place in a Hall of Fame. Additionally, there are musical compositions created using the Game Boy Camera's DJ mode, along with instructions for printing sheet music. There is a leaderboard highlighting high scores from Star Fox 64, Diddy Kong Racing, and Yoshi's Story. Finally, there's a Hide plus Seek section, where readers are challenged to identify the game and location of a hidden screenshot. This page is an advertisement for a Nintendo Power Players poll contest, where participants can win a Game Boy Color and 5 games. The grand prize includes a Game Boy Color and 5 games, while the second prize offers Nintendo Power t-shirts. Games like Quest for Camelot, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, South Park, Mortal Kombat 4, Wario Land 2, and Turok 2 are highlighted. Participants are encouraged to vote for the power charts by sending in a card. The contest rules and address for submissions are also provided. The next page features Extreme Neg 2 for the Nintendo 64. It highlights the game's improved speed, new tracks, and weapons. The game offers single-player modes like Practice and Time Trial and Arcade, and multiplayer modes like Multiplayer Cup, Head-to-Head, and Battle Arena. Extreme Egg 2 includes 12 unique environments, with a total of 36 different tracks. Screenshots showcase the game's graphics and racing action, with emphasis on dynamic lighting and reduced fog. This page of Nintendo Power focuses on Extreme Egg 2. It provides a breakdown of the various bikes and riders available in the game, detailing their strengths and weaknesses. Each bike's stats are listed, including top speed, handling, weapon strength, shield strength, and acceleration. Also, riding and weapon strategies are detailed. The next page is an advertisement for Top Gear Overdrive on the Nintendo 64. It features Kenny from South Park on the left side, making his signature muffled sounds. The ad emphasizes the game's features, like 4-player mode, lots of ways to cheat, nitro boosts, power-ups, selecting from 8 cars, competing for cash points, mirror tracks, rumble pack support, varying weather conditions, changing seasons, and jumps and obstacles. Screenshots of the game are also shown, along with the tagline, "The only thing more fun than winning is cheating." This page features Nintendo 64 game reviews. First is Turok 2, Seeds of Evil, praised for its graphics, animation, and special effects, comparing favorably to GoldenEye 007 and Zelda. The review highlights its gory nature and stunning hires mode with the expansion pack. It notes intuitive controls and useful weapon selection. The reviewers rave about its multiplayer mode and extra mission elements. Comments suggest playing in the dark with the sound up and with the expansion pack. Next, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, is reviewed and is hailed as a new standard for video game adventures, with emotive animations and realistic areas. The controls are praised, though controller button functions might be overwhelming. The reviewers love the game's variety, exploration, and overall depth. Lastly, NFL Quarterback Club 99 is featured with high praise for its graphics compared to Madden 99. The review highlights its analog passing control, player options, and the use of pronouns in the play-by-play commentary. The reviewers are impressed with the graphics and depth, noting the steep learning curve. The next page features Nintendo 64 game reviews. Wipeout 64 is reviewed, celebrated as a futuristic racer with graphics almost matching Extreme Egg 2, cool vehicles, and awesome lighting. Though it has fewer tracks, the challenges are varied. The reviewers praise its flying controls, weapon pickups, and exciting sense of speed. Body Harvest is described as a mix of action, adventure, sci-fi, and horror, with large worlds and an engaging story. The controls are functional, and the game's graphics and soundtrack are noted positives. Buck Bumble is reviewed, with praise for its graphics and special effects, though some areas are confusing. The controls, soundtrack, and overall fun gameplay are highlighted. Extreme Egg 2 is discussed, praising its atmosphere, interactive elements, and improved bikes. The improved steering makes the game more accessible. Music is great, but the reviewers expressed being disappointed that there aren't more differences from last year. The next page features reviews for 4 Nintendo 64 games. First is NHL 99, praised for its graphics, player recognition, and realistic feel. The game offers a good balance for casual and hardcore players, with customization options and solid audio. Next up is Twisted Edge Extreme Snowboarding, highlighted for its visuals, realistic tracks, and forgiving controls. The game's level design and variety are appreciated, with positive comments on the soundtrack and course extensions. Glover is reviewed as a surprising game with sophisticated graphics hidden beneath a preschool-friendly exterior. The game's addictive gameplay, unique level designs, and quality sound are all noted as positive points. Finally, Fighting Force 64 is covered, touted as a solid 3D brawler with good graphics and animations. The game is easy to learn with responsive controls, with reviewers enjoying the effects and cooperative mode. This page features reviews of Dual Heroes for the Nintendo 64, Frogger for the Super Nintendo, and the Game Boy Color. Dual Heroes is described as having a Power Rangers look, responsive controls, and a standard fighting game design. Reviewers noted the lack of Rumble Pack support and unoriginal sound. Frogger on the Super NES is praised for its colorful graphics and faithful recreation of the arcade classic, though the sound is lacking. The unforgiving controls are mentioned, along with the game's addictive nature. The Game Boy Color is celebrated for its bright graphics, compatibility with older games, and overall design. The sound is considered acceptable despite limitations, and developers are making games for it. Additionally, there is a Behind the Numbers and Names section introducing the evaluators and their game preferences, along with a breakdown of how the power meter categories are weighted. There is a table of age ratings. The next page features Pack Watch, with news about the Nintendo 64 expansion pack. It enhances graphics and sound in games like Turok 2, Rogue Squadron, NFL Quarterback Club 99, and Top Gear Overdrive. The expansion pack doubles the N64's RAM. The page also covers Activision's Nightmare Creatures for the N64. It highlights the game's bloody nature and improvements over the PlayStation version. Players can play as Ignatius or Nadia through 26 levels. Rumble Pack support is mentioned. The article describes it as a bloody game set in Victorian London with werewolves and zombies. This page features a Pack Play section previewing upcoming games. It starts with acclaimed South Park for the N64, highlighting the humor and the multiplayer modes where players can use gadgets and fight each other. Next is Vigilante 8 for the N64, focusing on its alternate history storyline and car combat. It mentions various game modes and the use of the expansion pack. It is a fast-paced car combat game with unique features. The page also covers Caesar's Palace for the N64, describing it as a first-person adventure/mystery game with gambling elements. The story involves colorful characters and gambling games. Finally, there's a section on Rare's upcoming 64 games, Perfect Dark and Jet Force Gemini, showing off prize screenshots and noting the real-time ray-traced graphics in Perfect Dark. This page features Pack Peaks, which is a section on upcoming games. It starts with London Calling, highlighting 4 titles from the ECTS show: Wild Metal Country, Revolt, Carmageddon 2, and Rat Attack, and touches on drama's Wild Metal Country and Revolt as RC racing games. Next is Viva Las Vegas, talking about Golden Nugget and its casino gambling experience, and mentions standard gambling games like craps, roulette, blackjack, and poker. The page then highlights Rayman 2, Legend of the River King, and Boss Rally World Tour. It also mentions Star Soldier Vanishing Earth for the N64, and a Game Boy Color version of Link's Awakening with a full color update. Also listed are N64 and Game Boy Color release forecast tables. Featured games included Castlevania, Magical Tetris Challenge featuring Mickey, Carrot Crazy, South Park, Survivor, Day 1, Turok 2 on the Game Boy, and several other titles with release timeframes. This page features a Nintendo Power advertisement promoting their repair service. It shows images of a Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo 64, and Game Boy. There's an image of Link, the main character from The Legend of Zelda, aiming a bow and arrow. It advertises the service's ability to fix broken consoles quickly and affordably. The right side is an advertisement for the game SCARS by UBI Soft, with an image of a man with wild hair and sunglasses, highlighting the game's intense racing action and multiplayer capability for the PlayStation and N64 consoles. This page features upcoming games like Star Wars, Rogue Squadron, a Zelda Part 2 sneak peek, and Quest for Camelot. Star Wars Rogue Squadron includes 16 levels overrun by TIE fighters and AT-ATs. Zelda Part 2 hints at Link's adventures in Lost Woods, Death Mountain, and the Ice Cave. Quest for Camelot is coming to Game Boy Color, based on the movie. There's also NBA Live 99. The page advertises the Zelda 64 USA launch team, with a price of $59.95, and pre-order bonuses at Funkoland, including a gold-colored cartridge and merchandise. The bottom of the page includes a listing of N64, Super NES, and Game Boy games that are available.